Good on Zoom. On Zoom. If you're on Zoom, you're missing out. It's a full house.
Packed house.
I love.
Standing room only.
Do you think it was Grace, Bradley, or Nikos?
Mm.
Woo, we're just kidding. It's the combo. It's the combo. So we're happy
Trifecta.
to hear.
The Holy
trifecta.
Trinity. The Holy Trinity.
Okay, tomorrow we have a CE class that is a little physical. We're going to learn how to stay safe out in the field from a former police officer. And I think we're going to practice spraying pepper spray that is just water in a pepper spray container. So register. If you register, there's lunch and a free pepper spray to take with you to stay safe. So it should be a fun CE class in here tomorrow at 11. And then on Thursday, Peter is going to teach his CMAs and pricing class. And he's going to wear that jacket. But that will go from like 10 to 11:30 in this room. And if you have never taken Peter's class, or even if you have, it should be very informative. It just, as things change, it's always good to stay up on how people are doing comps. And Peter is one of the best. He uses a lot of data and numbers and spreadsheets, which he'll share.
He's more than one of the best. He's the best of the best.
The best. It makes it hard to debate, right? Because there's so when he provides so much data.
Yep. He's really one of the top guns in this.
Ooh, I like what you did there. And then Red Day is 1 week from Thursday, but we have to tell them our final count and provide them all of our emails by tomorrow, because they're going to send out a volunteer form that everyone has to fill out that's going to go there. So please, even if you're like 50-50, if you can make it, but you think you might want to come, register. So we will put you on the list to get the form out in the next week, but hopefully you can make it. We are planning like a lunch and some drinks afterwards at a brewery nearby. So it should be a great day.
Always fun.
It's always fun to give back to the community with each other. Okay, what else do we have going on? And then May 16th, this was postponed from the 2nd, but Dwight and Cameron are going to be teaching their analyzing real estate investments class. And again, this is really numbers heavy also, but they go through the real scenarios of what the financials and the breakout on the income looks like for 3 different types of property, single family, a multifamily, and a commercial property. So great information to know for your personal investments or if you're working with investment clients. And register for that one too. Okay, we want to announce a new discount that we have. So Canva has officially partnered with Keller Williams. So if you were at Family Reunion, they had like a limited time discount, but we've worked with them to get a 20% discount off permanently. So it's off Canva Pro or Canva for Teams. And you just scan that bar or the QR code and you can register, like even if you already have Canva, you can register your account. So we'll also post that on the website. But it's great. You just get 20% off. And it was really cool that I worked with the rep from Canva, who Keller Williams is like his account. And he said that they are working on some future integrations into Command that are like a couple years out, but they are, they're really like working together to streamline some of the things that Canva does really well. Cool. And if you have any problems getting that to work, how cool. May birthdays. So happy birthday to all these May birthdays. Who's in the room? Grace later this week. Myra, Terry, Jenny. Look at, oh my gosh, all these birthdays. So happy birthday to all of our May birthdays. Okay, what else? Brian. Tell us. So this is Brian Miner from Homefront.
Hey guys, morning. How's everyone? Fabulous. All right, everyone's excited.
Kind of like the looks of this.
Okay, yeah. So, we got a big Fed meeting tomorrow, and then a jobs report coming out Friday. So hopefully, we have kind of a bearish jobs report and good indication from the Fed chairman tomorrow that they're still thinking about cutting rates. I mean, there's the possibility that they could cut rates. They could even raise rates. So, I mean, it's a volatile market, and I think that's kind of one of the things that's really out there is the volatility. But we did a quick little buy down calculator here. I don't know if anyone's not familiar with doing a temporary buy down, like a 2-1 buy down, or maybe even a 3-2-1 buy down, basically that they're supplementing the interest rate for the first year or two, or maybe 3, just depending on how long the clients want to stay in the house, or, what they, maybe where their credit situation's at, et cetera. They don't like the initial payment right away. Hey, we just want to be in this house for a year or 2 or 3, and then we're getting onto another house. Okay, maybe we can supplement your payment. And this is kind of what that pricing structure looks like. So we can either build that into the overall interest rate, meaning it's a higher interest rate, and then they kind of take that rebate back to kind of supplement that payment for the first year or 2 or 3. Or we can just ask for extra seller concessions. So it's kind of a breakdown. Sorry, it's a little tough to read there, but just kind of shows, all right, here's the first monthly payment, or, the first year's savings. What is that? $282 by just doing a 1-year buy down. So, hey guys, we're going to save you $300 a month. I think this was on a $500,000 purchase with, maybe they're getting into a second house and they've got $100,000 to put down in that scenario there. So it's less than a 1-point buy down to basically, save them $282 a month for that first year. Okay. So happy to obviously go over these pricing strategies and give you these numbers specific to what numbers we're looking at here. I just wanted to kind of go over some of the basics there. I don't want to mansplain this if everyone's really familiar with it, but obviously, these are price specific and, depending on the client, what they need to do. This is a way, hey guys, yeah, rates are a little high, but we've got a way to kind of offset that and make you a little bit more comfortable in making the move.
Right. So as rates continue to be a little volatile, having a little control, having more options is where you can really help.
Yeah. And especially, hey, we're expecting rates to improve. They're just not there right now. Okay, no problem. Let's kind of supplement that for the first 2 years until we get a better rate interest, better rate environment, and then we can just make our move then. Okay.
Yeah, I saw something the other day, like on social media, with somebody saying, like it was in, that they'll saying date the rate, buy the home thing. And like, it's like become cliche. And in some circles, like people were turning their nose down on it. But somebody was saying, how about that now? Because rates kind of haven't been doing what we expected them to do. But we're like, that whole movement started, like a year ago, maybe. And like, most people haven't really hit the new rate yet. So like, they're still probably doing a 2-1 buy down. Like I haven't heard a lot of 1-1 buy downs. Most of them been 2-1 buy downs, I think. And so like, we're still 2 years out from those people. I think it's still a good option, especially with rates at 7.6 for like a pretty well qualified person. Like what I saw yesterday, is that about right? 7.6, 7.5 for like a good credit score and an F8.
Well, here if we got a 699, I just priced out somebody. Depending on again where their credit scores are at, if we're doing FHA conventional, if they've got a decent equity position, some money to kind of throw at this. Depending on the property type too, a condo might have a slight hit to the rate, et cetera, there too. But
I think most of our borrowers are probably pretty well qualified using conventional products, right? So they're probably within the mid 7s.
Could be. And again, depending on if we need to get rebate for closing costs, or in the next slide, you'll be able to kind of see if we do have some capital to throw at this, whether that's, we just sold a house, we're kind of flush with cash and we want to bring that into our next property. It really shows kind of the difference of, if we just do a slight buy down, the pricing is better to kind of bring in extra money versus trying to get money back from rebate. And I think that's just basically because the market knows that rates are volatile and lenders don't want to sign somebody up at a higher rate and give them a bunch of rebate because they know that loan is at risk for a refinance over the next 6 to 12 months or so.
Asking you guys out here in the market of the moment, like the last week or two since rates kind of jumped, do you feel like there's room in your offers to buy down rates or get closing costs? Or do you think it's still like hyper competitive and this isn't an option? I don't know the answer to this question. I'd really love to know what you guys think.
I can't answer my side that on a listing that we launched 2 weeks ago. The sellers, I advised them to offer a $10,000 credit, and ended up with multiple offers and over this price.
That's great. And did you have to do you have to give the credit? You did use the credit. It's already built in. Yeah.
You knew that from up front. That was part of the plan. See, that's great.
Yeah. Does anybody else have like an anecdotal situation?
I would say to kind of detail on that, sellers offering that concession is so much better than doing a price drop. There's a lot more leverage. We can go over kind of that scenario in specifics if you'd like to see. This kind of breaks that down where, we're just doing like a 2-point difference. It's like 699 getting a point back versus buying down a point. It's like 6.375. And I mean, that's a $200 a month savings. So it kind of pencils out to be about 5 years for that, payback. So depending on how long somebody wants to be in that home, if this is their forever home, okay, yeah, it's worth kind of looking at using that extra money to buy down the rate. There's a little bit more generosity there with the pricing to buy down the rate versus trying to get a bunch of rebate back to pay for closing costs versus putting that into the purchase price.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you. So
yeah,
it's important to know that there's different options and to run different scenarios based on.
Indeed, yeah,
situation.
absolutely. I would say again, depending on how long they want to be in the home for, that really kind of weighs into a lot of how we're structuring things. But yeah, you get a lot more bang for your buck with buying down the rate with using some of those seller incentives. This is just kind of a graph showing what the 30-year fixed rate has been. I think at the very end, it's important to note how it kind of hit that kind of mid level there, that average in between 7 and 8, and it's turned down from there. So it didn't break through that and kind of break through that resistance level. At least it has turned down recently. I thought that was kind of important to see there. And the next one is just a basics on kind of our inflation. I think that's CPI, so it's not taking into account everything, but I mean it obviously it's been a lot higher than it is right now. It is kind of stable. Again, we'll get a lot more language from the Fed tomorrow, but I don't think that they're going to raise rates with how things have settled down. But obviously, it's not where they want it to be. It's not in the target where it wants to be, but it's definitely not anything totally out of balance. So it might postpone that first rate cut.
Awesome, Brian.
Okay.
No, one more question for you, Brian. Like, let's say I have a listing coming live and I want to offer a package, an incentive package like that, be it like a 2-1 or 3-1 buy down or something like that. Can I come to you and like help you? Can you price it out and like help us know what roughly what the client or seller client might want to offer?
Yeah.
It
I
has
mean,
to
having
do
to take a look at those numbers, and then whether it's a temporary buy down or a permanent buy down, here's kind of what an average pricing is as of that day. I mean, it changes every day, and of course, depending on the buyer's capabilities there.
Sure.
But yeah, it's always going to be something to expand that buyer pool, to have more people now qualify. If they get 10 grand in seller concessions, maybe they can afford another 75 grand in their purchase price. So now that $600,000 house, everyone at 525 can now be in a position to make an offer on that house.
Cool.
Awesome.
And Jenny, what price point was your listing at? 615. Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, next up, Cole is going to show us something that launched in KW Command yesterday.
Yeah, so yesterday,
Great.
let us know that they launched their own AI chatbot. It is a knowledge-based, thank you. It is a knowledge-based AI chatbot, meaning that it pulls from a particular data set. That data set being really anything in the Keller Williams ecosphere. Any like the MREA, One Thing, Shift, and then it also pulls from answers.kw.com. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys where it was and how it works. So you'll log into Command as normal. On the home page in the bottom right hand corner here, you'll see these little sparkles now. Click on that. It's called KWIQ, or they're trying to brand it as quick to make it quick and easy. But you can basically ask it really anything. Let's start with something about Command, just submitting paperwork for compliance in Command.
So things that you would have maybe searched
Yeah.
on Connect for or like.
And so this is actually a really good example because you have to be pretty specific about the prompts, because I put submitting paperwork for compliance in Command. It just spit me out something about cooperative conversation and like commissions in general. So let's say submitting paperwork in opportunities. Yeah.
And it just launched yesterday, so it will learn
Yeah.
better. But in theory, it should be a great place to look if
Yep.
you, forget the steps to do something, or you are interested in one of like, the communities or.
So yeah, it'll spit out a step-by-step on how to submit your paperwork for compliance in Command. And basically anything that you would need to know about Command, it will know. And also cool things like let's say the MREA, you're trying to figure out the budget model. So what is the budget model? Oh, in the MREA. And it'll spit out just a short synopsis about what the budget model is, what it entails, and everything like that, and kind of how to take advantage of it. But yeah, it's just another tool to kind of save time and make things a little easier in terms of dealing with command.
Yeah, this is great.
Mhm.
And really anything Keller.
Yeah, really anything Keller
It doesn't
Williams.
just the, open internet, it just,
Mhm.
but it's all, everything Keller.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. It's right.
Let's see. What would you like a script about? Okay, so it looks like it won't. I did ask it like let's say, yeah.
Do you have a
Open scripts. Yeah, so it'll let you know that it's a knowledge constrained AI, basically meaning that it'll pull from a particular data set that has been attached to it. And that data set just being like really anything in the Keller Williams specific ecosphere. So all the books and everything like that.
yesterday?
Well, they'll do give me a good good this popped something up for me yesterday.
And it'll be similar to, I think, like, you know, the chat GPT and the movies, how you have to kind of figure out the prompting and,
Mhm.
I don't know much yet because just watched yesterday, so.
Yep. Mhm.
No, it's harder.
But yeah, and so like I just typed in some lead generation ideas for spring, popped out, is it 6 lead generating ideas. So you can also use it as kind of your sounding board, kind of figuring out what some good ideas are for the spring. But and then anything you ask it as well too will be saved in this history tab. So you can see I was kind of playing around with it earlier. But yeah, it's just another tool that Keller Williams has come out with to streamline your business.
Thanks, Paul. Anyone have any questions about? Wait. Can we ask it like a general?
I don't believe it has access, or actually, that's a good idea. Let's try.
Can you ask it for like a phone number of a broker?
I'm not sure if it has. Yeah, so
Yep.
it doesn't have access to like the roster and everything. Yeah.
You're safe.
Yeah, that is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Cole. All right, let's get to our panelists today.
Fun.
Yes, you're out.
I gotta jump.
With love.
Civic duty today.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we have Bradley King, Nikos Lilles, and Grace Kim. 3 of our amazing agents. And we're going to talk about all 3 of them. We asked them to be on this panel today because they're all off to a great start this year with business. And we want to talk about what you guys are doing. So let's start with you, Grace. How are you generating your business right now? Like the business that you've gotten so far in 2024, where is that coming from?
My past sphere. So I was saying before I got here, I was like, what have I been doing differently than last year? And I could honestly say, I don't think I'm doing anything differently. And so I think it was just me having to wait it out and just keep doing the things that I'm doing. And so that doesn't help brand new agents really, because, but it helps, I think the sort of, we've been in it a couple of years and a couple of years were good. And then all of a sudden it got really slow last year. Like I didn't do anything different last year. And it just got really, really slow. And it was disheartening a little bit, but I was just like, okay, no, I'm just going to keep doing what it is that I've always been doing. And then it just picked up. And so waiting it out, I guess, and just consistency and
consistency and
Yeah.
touching, like reaching out to your sphere that whole time.
Right. I did the things that you're supposed to do. Like I did a
Mhm.
quarterly news letter. I posted on social media the like last year I only had honestly like 6 transactions, right? But I posted the heck
Mhm.
out of those 6 transactions and I made it look like I was doing more than I was necessarily.
And you also are
Yeah.
forgetting to tell everyone that she jumped into commercial last year. So, that, I mean, there's a big learning curve too,
Right,
of
right.
like adding that
Right.
component to your business. So
Yeah.
give yourself some grace,
Oh,
Grace.
yes. Yes.
Uh, so you did all things, newsletters, the
I
whole
did
time.
a couple home buyer classes. Again,
Mhm.
things were so slow last year that I just felt like I had more time to sort of get the systems in place that I had always felt like I wanted, but it was always, my hair was on fire before that. And so I just never got to do those things. And then, so I did all the things you were supposed to do, right? Like I joined a BNI group so that I could do some networking. I went to like Chamber of Commerce things. I just had more time on my hands. And so I did those activities and maybe some of that came around or just, again, I really do think it was just kind of like waiting it out and just waiting for people to sort of make a move.
Mhm. But not waiting for the phone to ring, still
No,
proactively
doing things
doing
like I was,
things.
I was bored, honestly, all of last year. I just had more time to do things and I don't like my kids that much. So, I can only do so much mothering.
Fair.
And so
Fair.
like doing things like going to meetings
Mhm.
and going to like more happy hours and just, I guess, getting my name out there.
I like
And maybe some of that came around.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's all things, right? Bradley, how have you been so successful this year so far?
I think this year I've really focused on relationship building with professionals that are in situations that drive business. And for me, that's death, divorce, and delinquencies. So finding people that are around that a lot. And that even means, just all the relationships with people that you know. When you're hearing of unfortunate situations, that is a business driver. And just kind of handling it with empathy, but also being a solution to help kind of facilitate those sales. So
Mhm.
really relationship building with professionals specifically.
And how do you meet the right people?
That's really tough. Because Grace and I have both had an interesting experience with BNI. And BNI can be tough because it's everybody wants to get business in BNI, but some of them might not be in the situations that drive business. So for me, it's been finding older professionals that I can add value into their lives so that I'm a solution for them and not just asking for business. And a lot of that is helping value stuff. Maybe it's not going to lead to business. Maybe people are just kind of curious, but doing a lot of helping for the amount of business I'm getting back in return.
I like that you're giving to get,
Mhm.
right? So what kind of professionals have been the most like beneficial for like business relationships?
Yeah, so like attorneys, attorney receivers specifically that are court appointed have been really good. CPAs, bankers, divorce attorneys, family attorneys, other realtors too, other realtors in other states. Uh, just making sure that people know you're going to take care of their clients really well. And just having really good communication, I think, is what drives referrals from other states. But those are really the key relationships for me.
Nice. And didn't you tell me that you wrote some like letters out?
Yeah, so I've done some lead generation too by reverse prospecting, just finding kind of what's a parameter of what I see selling. Well, we know that for commercial, balloon payments come up, which is basically where the balance is due, and they have to refi, but a lot of the values are compressed now, so they can't really refinance, so they're going to have to sell. So how do you connect with those people? Well, you can just figure out which bank holds the note and when the note was created and kind of guess when the balloon payment's going to be, and then mail all of those people. But just generally, a certain percentage of people are going to buy and sell real estate in general or
Mhm.
know people that do. So if you connect with enough people, I think those connections really do come around, especially if you just kind of chat with people. And a lot of people are just kind of curious to talk about the market too. And I think
Mhm.
that leads to business as long as you follow up with people later on.
Yeah, you could translate that data set into a residential, like if you've been in your
Exactly.
home a certain amount of years. And what does the letter say?
So mine would say something like, I saw that you purchased your property X amount of years ago. I wanted to touch base. I just sold a building in the area, or I have a buyer in the area. I'd love to chat with you to see if you have plans for your building or know somebody that does. And then just keep pestering people until they tell you to leave them alone, which can be good and bad, but a lot of people will kind of respect the hustle in a way.
Mhm.
I think for residential, it would be maybe something along the lines of, I mean, you could get really kind of dirty with it and look and see who passed away and where they lived, and then email, like kind of go about it that way.
Mhm.
Which, yeah, it is kind of the unfortunate way to do it, but maybe just, I mean, if you mail 100 houses, statistically, 5 of them are probably going to sell in the next year,
Mhm.
at least.
Right, and there's a lot of templates out like within the Keller Williams ecosphere called like golden letters that are, already made. You can use those as templates.
But it is way easier to get business directly from people that already are connected to the business. Like getting a referral is way easier than lead gen. At least that's what I feel like.
That's true.
Oh, okay, we're gonna maybe come back to that. Okay, Nikos,
Yes.
how are you getting your business? You're off to a great start.
Lots of calls. So my coach and I broke down what we needed to do for this year to hit our goal. So basically every day is 2 hours and 15 minutes of lead generation, which can be a total pain at times, but it works. And then it's striving to hit 135 contacts a week. So it's really just going back to the basics, but I spend a lot of time on the phone, a lot of cold calling. And that's just circle prospecting around just solds, just listeds, open houses. Sometimes it's literally just throwing a dart at the map, figuratively thinking, okay, let's call this area and see.
Mhm.
Also, another big thing for me is just always being turned on in realtor mode, just because we don't know when that next piece of business is going to come.
Mhm.
So like, for instance, where I live, it's a newer construction neighborhood. So there's a lot of people who are milling about looking at stuff. I mean, we joke around, I went on a $20,000 walk, just simply, we took the dog around the block. People were looking at a property. I had a listing down the street. So I said, hey, you want 2 stories? I'll sell you that one. They said, we want 1. Do you have a realtor? No. Well, give me 10 minutes to change. I'll see you in that house. And we closed like 2 weeks ago. But it's just always knowing where I'm at, what's going on, and then if I hear it's that classic, like, oh, if someone said real estate, like, hey, how can I help? And just going from there. Same thing with just like our community, just making sure that within the groups that I'm involved with, whether it be the gym, the kids soccer team, the kids jujitsu class, like it doesn't really matter, just everyone knowing that, hey, I'm the real estate guy.
Mhm.
And I mean, yesterday had another one where a lady came up to me at our CrossFit gym and said, hey, we just moved here, we need to buy a house. I was told from so-and-so to talk to you. And it's quickly like, okay, let's go. What do we got to do? So that's been a big thing for me. And
I love that. Wait, let's talk more about that. So how do you get to be known as the real estate guy without like being like,
hey, I'm the real estate
Yeah.
guy. It's taken 10 years, right? No, it's taken some time. Like for instance, the gym community that we belong to is a pretty big one, and they do lots of events throughout the year. So I've made it a point that my goal is I don't want to go in there and not see my name on the back of a shirt. Because people always like to wear the shirts for the different events. So there's my name on it. And through that, it's just building that recognition. So, I've told the owners, anytime you guys are doing an event, please come to me first for sponsorships, right? So that's a big thing.
Awesome.
Same with the soccer team. When our kids are both on the same team, we're not coaching, but we went to the coaches and was like, hey, what can we do to help? So my wife and I are going to host the end of year party. But with doing that, it just starts that conversation, and it's almost inevitable for one of the parents to say, hey, what do you do for work? Oh, I'm in real estate. And then we let it go from there. So
That's great.
yeah.
Okay, tell us more about calling. So do you track
I do.
your numbers? Okay,
Yes.
so if you're not where you need to
I
be.
do.
And those are based on what you want to make and do. It's not,
Correct.
it's not like your coach telling you have to do that.
Yeah, so we broke it down of, okay, what's our goal for how many homes we want to sell?
Mhm.
And then, how much do we want to make? What's our GCI going to look like? And really just went down that Keller Williams model and broke it all down and figured out, okay, how many calls do we need to do? And statistically speaking, we should get X amount of, contacts through those calls, and then from those contacts leading to appointments, and in the end, hopefully leading to contracts and closings. So
I love that, right? Good old fashioned hard work.
straight up grunt work. Oh yeah. It's
No short.
yeah.
Okay, what are you saying on the calls? Because you have a really high conversion rate.
Yes. I'm really bad at scripts, so I'm not a person to look at for scripts. Often let's just say I'm calling around a just sold. It's that classic of, hey, Melanie, yeah, hey, how you doing? Okay, thanks for taking my call. Was wondering if you could help me. And okay, what's up? All right, just sold this house down the street. Got a load of people who are interested in. Do you know who do you know in your neighborhood that I should be chatting with? And I feel not coming super aggressive at people as the big sales guy, but just, hey, I'm here to have a conversation. It goes distance. And, sometimes, oh yeah, I talked with my neighbor, he's looking at doing it. Or I've had a lot where they're like, yeah, we are considering. And then we just take that conversation. And
You're using a dialer?
I do. So I use Mojo, and just kind of let that, even though it's still like one line, but it still is a lot easier and takes time away from.
And
But
keeps you.
keeps me on
right?
track. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So all three of you are doing certain activities consistently, right? How do you stay focused and keep out like the noise when it's like high interest rates and our industry's, like we're gonna make half as much money, like the fake news and the headlines and everything. How do you keep out all the noise?
So I've never been a caller. Like I was like, that's the vein of my existence. Like I can't be that guy. Like I can't do it. But I was always like, open houses are my thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so especially the first couple of years, I was doing like 5 open houses a weekend. So I did an open house on Friday night, and then I would do a 10 a.m. and then a 1 p.m. and then I'd switch it around and do that again. And so I've always told people like it's just a numbers game, right? So like the more calls you're doing, the more people you're meeting, the more open houses you're doing, the more you're meeting, right? And so I always felt like that felt safer to me, in that I was there and you're the ones who came in. So you obviously have the interest, right? So even with all the noise and all the, gloom and doom on the news, you still came into the open house hoping or wanting to buy a house for whatever reason, right? So I always felt like that felt to me a little safer, like it just was a less barrier to entry. But I would say just do what you're doing, pick like one thing, like don't be like the Canva girl and this girl and this girl, and we're going to try this tool and this tool. Like you can just get so lost in all the tools. Like you could spend all day just working on different platforms and doing different tools. Like I found out real early, like social media probably wasn't going to be my thing. Like I'm just going to post it on there, but I wasn't going to be dancing. I wasn't, I don't dance, like I don't. And so I was like, okay, that's probably not gonna, Instagram is not gonna be, TikTok is not gonna be my platform, right? So just like pick one thing and just do that one thing just for like a year, and it's bound to work.
I love what you said, because so many people try, like, oh, I tried farming and it didn't work. Oh, I tried open houses, it didn't work. I tried to, it's like, well, did you try it for long enough, right? And the beauty of our industry is that all three of you lead generate very differently. That's kind of why we thought this would be a good mix, because you can do it through calls, you can do it through open houses, through networking, all those things. So Bradley, how do you keep out like the noise and stay focused and motivated?
Yeah, I mean, I just ignore it, honestly, because it really doesn't matter at all. I mean, it's going to have no effect on the transactions that you're doing because, I mean, they're transactions, so it's already past it. Yeah, it's just being decisive on client choice. If somebody comes to you saying that they're super concerned about the market and they've been waiting for a year for prices to drop, probably not the client to go after. I mean, 3 A clients are going to make you 10 times as much as 25 B clients. Because it doesn't matter if the people don't end up actually transacting. So
that's really good advice, right? And if they have unrealistic expectations of the market, right?
Yeah.
Nikos, what about you? What if you don't feel like calling? How do you keep that mindset?
Yeah, no, that's great. It's nice because I can lock the office door and stay away from the kids. So that's one way to do that. No, for instance, I'm one of those guys where if I have my number that I need to hit, I don't like not hitting it. And so by me not hitting my numbers, it's always a really awkward first few minutes of my coaching call on Thursday morning. So that's like one of the leading things I like to achieve. So right there.
So you've built in
Yeah.
that kind of accountability for yourself. So
Exactly,
if people
yeah.
don't have a MAPS coach, you can build that in
Yeah.
other ways, like, right? Like tell your significant other, like,
Well,
hey.
we've had our kids in mind,
Yeah,
you know?
right,
So I mean,
yeah.
my 6-year-old loves to pester me on, hey, do you get a star today? Like, do you get a sticker?
Oh.
And because she gets a sticker for her like sleep chart and whatnot. So it's like, did I make my calls? Yes, I did. Okay, cool. I get a sticker. Right. But it's like those little things. You know, I still haven't gotten a prize yet, but that's okay. But I mean, it's just kind of a non-negotiable for what I need to do to drive my business. And then, yeah, handle it from there.
So cool, right? Very like going back to the models, right? Doing your lead gen first and then everything else is, you know, your secondary activities. And if anyone has any questions in the room or on Zoom, just raise your hand for any of these guys. Otherwise, I'll just keep asking things. What about like systems and follow-up? Like, how do you manage that? Like, what systems have you set up to like stay in touch with clients, to automate and leverage some of your time as you get like busier, like you are now, right?
So I'm really bad at that.
Okay.
A
a lot of people are. That's why it's like a good thing to talk about.
I do have everyone set up on like, so I have the dates of like their anniversaries. And so I'm good about sending something and just say, you know, like, here's a $10 gift card, have a coffee on me. Did you know that this was, you know, 3 years ago, we bought your house today? Like how, you know, how quickly time flies, you know, some sort of, you know, like nice little
personal
reminder,
note. Yeah,
right?
okay.
Because we've all heard that statistic of like, you know, they think you're great, but then they don't remember your name 3 years later, right? And so it's just me making sure that they remember my name. They're like, oh yeah, there's Grace. Okay. Oh, her last name. Oh yeah, her name wasn't Kim. Like, you know, they'll do that a lot. And so just doing that. But then the other stuff I'm really bad at doing, right? So like in theory, all of last year, that was what I was going to do, but I realized that's one of the things I'm bad at doing is getting those systems in place. And so I still don't have set systems in place. And so it really is mostly just whatever's in here. So whatever I remember, or like I'm good about if I'm driving through a neighborhood and I'm like, oh, I just passed your house. Like I just saw that you painted your, you know, shutters red, you know, and so it's just a very organic sort of, yeah, touch every time I just think of them.
I like that. Pam, you call that, what do you call that? Your spot, what do you call that? Planned spontaneity or something? Planned spontaneity, right? Pam says she does that when she drives by a client's house. So I always think about that planned spontaneity, right? Like it's in your head, but you know that you're gonna do it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, what about you, Bradley? What kind of like systems do you have? You have an Atlas?
Yeah, I have an Atlas, but I'm pretty similar. I'm not great with the systems. I've tried a bunch of them. They're all really cool, and I love nerding out about all the things that they can do. But I mean, doing them every day and being consistent about input and follow up within the system is pretty difficult, at least for me. So I just kind of refined it. Super simple. I have an Excel sheet that I literally screenshot and print out, and whenever it changes, I reprint it and tape it to my wall so it's right in front of my face. And it's the people that I know business is coming from in the next probably 3 to 6 months. People that I need to be on top of and be checking in with all the time. And then I also use my calendar on my phone so that when I'm having a conversation with someone, right after it's done, I put in my phone when I need to talk to them again and what I need to talk to them about, so that it at least like jogs your memory and makes you think like, oh, I need to have so-and-so conversation with this person. I even do that for like, I need to think about this at this time before I walk into XYZ meeting.
Okay, yeah.
So just,
So
yeah,
it doesn't have to be high tech, but you are organized in,
Mhm.
you know, putting those in your calendar so you're not missing out.
And one thing I got from Cameron Schwab too,
Mhm.
so inside of notes on iPhone, you can go in and make folders. So I have like a folder for buyers, sellers. So if something's like not a full-blown lead yet, but it's kind of maybe a potential relationship or it's something I want to remember, I just categorize it into buyers or sellers.
Okay, so you're all like, there's no automation. in that, right?
No.
Do you do any kind of like newsletter or anything like
I'm-
that? Or you're like actually doing all the touches yourself?
I'm doing all the touches personally. Part of that is because right now most of my clientele is 60 plus, and they don't really, from my experience, want to get bugged with.
They're not on TikTok?
Yeah, they're not getting TikToks. They also don't want to see me dancing on TikTok, sadly. But so yeah, I just shoot them a call and say, "Hey, John, there's a building that just went for sale by yours. What do you think?"
Okay, cool. Okay, Nikos, what about your systems and?
Yes, so
Follow.
so I use Brivity for my CRM, and with that, it's all of their automated drip plans. I really don't pay much attention to what Brivity does, except for knowing that, all right, here's client who's a buyer and they're going to do something in the next 6 months or a year, put them in and just let the email start dripping. And then with that, I obviously
Pause for a sec. So is it like a once a month email, or what's the how?
yeah,
what's the
usually it's
cadence?
about every 2 weeks, 2 weeks,
2 weeks.
depending on how hot that client is or how
Mhm.
much we got to stay in front. What I've noticed with that is it just keeps me top of mind in their email. I also try to immediately put everyone on for a buyer that is on a property search, and I don't go into massive detail with it, but it'd be, 3-bed, 2-bath in Lake Oswego, 800 to $1 million, right? And now anytime something that reaches, hits that goes in, it's going to go to those people. From there, kind of like what Bradley does is I've got my list of, who's in my top 10 where I know they're going to be doing something soon. They get a lot more attention from me, whether it just be, text messages, just phone calls. I like to think I'm pretty old school at the same time. Like, yes, I'm using tech to do its thing, but I'm not a tech guy, where I'm much more the person who's just going to call them up, where, it might even just be like, hey, are we looking at homes this weekend, or are you selling or not? One of those conversations. And people like that. I get a really good response. So, yeah, that's a big part. Social media too. I've hired someone who just handles all of that. And what's nice is anyone, especially in my sphere, past clients who are on the social pages are constantly seeing those things. More times than not, I'm getting someone calling me up saying, man, you're selling a lot this year. Well, I saw that post you just did about rates. Like, tell me more. And then I have to look at it and figure out what I actually posted. At least we're staying front of mind with them. So
Yeah, that's great,
Yeah.
right? Staying top of mind and using the marketing to enhance what you're
Yeah.
doing with the prospecting and the lead gen.
mhm.
Okay, so you set up, like you have like a buyer's drip
Yeah,
campaign.
buyers
like,
drip campaign,
What if
sellers drip
someone like
campaign.
not in the market at all? What kind
Yeah.
of drip do you put them on?
Those folks will go on kind of like my archive drip plan, where I think it's a monthly, just some sort of thing about real estate. Like I said, I couldn't really tell you what they're getting sent, good or bad, I don't know, but it's staying in front. And then everyone is on a schedule for me to be calling, depending on where they are, whether it's someone who's a once a week or maybe it's just every few months.
Mhm.
Just the touching base, giving some sort of tidbit, Bo Nix is going to the Broncos, let's go, right? Something like that,
Mhm.
right? Where it starts a conversation.
That's great. And even if you are, if you're just using command, right? Because you have, everyone has access to it, you can search different smart plans that other agents across the country have been doing. So you can find somebody else's buyer email drip or, seller. And then we've been making a newsletter. What do you have to search? Hashtag KWPP. And you'll get the monthly newsletters, that are more like localized,
Yeah.
right? I think Cole's working on the May one or just about done with the May one. Yeah, just about done with the May. Look tomorrow. Don't look today. But to try to make some of that content for you so it's easier, right? So it's a little bit more plug and play, so you don't have to spend all day. And it's funny that you say you don't really know what it is, but you just know it's a touch.
Yeah.
That looks nice enough.
That's the biggest
a good
thing is, are
representation.
we reaching out? Because there have been those times where I haven't been, and then suddenly, you're on Instagram. I'm like, wait a second, they just listed their house with Bradley. Like, what the heck,
Yeah.
That didn't happen, but you get it. I mean, we've all
Right.
seen that. So
Everyone's had that and it causes a little like kick in the pants of like, wow, I should have been in front of them more.
Yeah.
Right? Grace, you said you sent out a monthly newsletter. What do you do that through, or how do you do that? And do you create it? And
I use Command.
okay.
So I do create the newsletter itself, but there's always, like these are the homes I have listed for sale, or I think these are the best, value proposition homes, or some little tidbit of what the rate is doing, or something of what I think is valuable real estate information is always in there. It's not like a, make tomato soup kind of like a post. It's not
Yeah.
that, like
Mhm.
it's and I've seen those have their place.
Yeah,
Right?
you have
Or
to be
like,
genuine to
yeah,
you,
yeah.
right?
Like
Like
to
that would
me,
be
it
weird
feels
if you
more,
sent,
right.
like a recipe.
I don't,
Yeah.
I don't cook from recipes anyway, so like it'd be weird. But it's more, it is sort of real estate heavy, that newsletter. And I usually make it about, I try to do every 3 months.
Okay, great. Do you guys have any questions for any of them on what they're doing to get the business, close the business? How are you keeping things like transactions together right now from start to finish? Any tips on that, or?
I mean, the big thing is having a trusted team, in the sense of, I mean, I feel like now is more of a time than ever that when I write an offer, I'm choosing the escrow officer, and hopefully we can keep that and use my preferred escrow officers because I know they can handle it. I'm really pushing preferred lenders right now. In fact, I had a guy who pushed back a while ago about a buyer broker agreement, and I put in it just because he was a bit of a flight risk and didn't want to get pre-qualified. I said that you're going to have to get pre-qualified with my lender. And just by doing that, it just sets the tone of, you don't have to use them, but let's make sure that you're good to go. Because I know that when we do have those deals that are, about to terminate, I have good people I can lean up against who can prop them back up. So, I think we just closed on one where we probably thought it was going to terminate about 4 different times, and it took 2 months to close, but we got to the finish line. And part of that too, it came down to like escrow. They did not use, we used the listing agent's escrow company, which was fine. But at the very end, we found out that they never got one of the addendums over that was sent to them, and that put another big delay. So it's just these little things where if I can control as much of the chaos as possible with trusted partners, I think that's one of the things that's going to keep it moving in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good advice. And are you using buyer broker agreements now with all of your
Yes,
buyer
I am
clients?
using those now. And I've been a lot more picky on who I work with too, which I've always been that guy where I'm like, I'll take any deal, like, let's just go. But now it's, if there's pushback or someone doesn't want to sign, it's, I don't know, in my opinion, it just shows how serious they are in the first place.
Or
Right?
it kind of is, they're telling you their loyalty.
Oh, exactly.
Right
I mean,
then.
I do a lot of stuff with Zillow, and that's great. I mean, the return's phenomenal on it for me. But it is one of those things where if someone is not wanting to, get down to the brass tacks right away, and answer some real basic questions, I just tell them to go find someone else. I'm busy. I got stuff to do. I got 3 kids, but that's a big thing. But a lot of people don't push back. And I think when you come in and you're serious about it, they say, okay, hey, this guy knows what he's doing. We can lean on him and get to the finish line. So.
What about you guys, keeping transactions together? Any feedback on that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with what Nico said,
same.
especially about being selective with clients. One thing that I've kind of changed in my business a little bit is I used to be a little bit more lax on due diligence terms with clients and earnest money. And I'm a lot tighter now as far as my job isn't to delete risk for clients. I mean, they're going into a big transaction and so is the seller. And if I'm on the buy side, it's okay to have them release earnest money at a certain point or like be out of their due diligence period. And if they're not willing to do that, then it might be because they're kind of have shaky feet on the transaction. And I don't really want to deal with those kind of transactions, especially in this market. So I'd much rather get people in, do actual due diligence, get through it, and then it's time to close. Yeah, I mean, no changing the mind. I mean, it happens, but we can avoid it as much as
Right,
possible.
not giving an easy out.
And keeping people's mind in it, like, come on, we're gonna do the transaction, we're gonna get it through. Like, the market is the market. Best time to buy was yesterday, and the next best time is today. Let's do it.
Yeah, I like that. When you say it with such confidence, right, that
Mhm.
translates. And then, and you guys have always used like a form of like a fee agreement in commercial, right? Like the equivalent of like a buyer broker agreement, kind of, right?
Yeah, it's looser and it's more negotiated, but it's similar. I mean, I'm confirming commission on every deal prior to going to contract via email. Usually, I mean, you can do it on documents too, but
Mhm.
yeah.
And then Grace, are you using buyer broker agreements?
I
Yeah.
haven't yet, just
Mhm.
because I'm waiting for the new form to sort of come out,
Mhm.
and I've been we've been talking about it, but not using it necessarily yet. But I'm finding what the same thing they're finding is, I think people are super confused,
Mhm.
and the people who are buying, like, they've been waiting and they're finally sick of it, and so they're buying or selling, but they're also really, really confused. So I'm finding that I'm doing a lot more hand holding than I was like 2 years ago, where everything was just transactions, like hurry, 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 let's get this through. And now it's a lot of like therapy sessions and like, I'm your best friend, counseling, and it's a lot of doing that, especially on the front end and even throughout the transaction, where they're like, oh my gosh, they asked me for $20,000 in repairs, and like walking people through that and the rationale. And again, it feels a lot like therapy, and I'm your best friend for an entire 45 days. And then afterwards, I'm like, bye. But it's a lot of that. I think it's been a lot more time intensive than it
Right.
has, I think, for each single transaction. And it's the same for commercial too, right? If you're starting a business right now in this market, like you're confused, and yet you're still doing it. And so you want to, get people sort of prepared and sort of, expecting, giving them a set of expectations of, this is how this is going to go, and this is what you should expect. And so a lot more handholding overall.
Yeah, that's all makes perfect sense, right, with what's going on, and you need to be there a little bit more. So awesome, you guys. Thank you so much for sharing. Any final questions before we let them go? Round of applause for everyone. Before we wrap, Nicole, come here. Oh, I know, sorry, I'm putting you on the spot, but come here. I want to do a little brag alert about you. So, this is Nicole. If you guys have not met her, hey Nonan. Wanted to make sure I'm saying it right. So she got licensed new to real estate, what, like a month ago? Like literally last month? Yeah. Literally last month. So like a week in, she picked up her first buyer, and that closes today. So she's having her first closing today. So round of applause for Nicole. And she has a listing already going live tomorrow. Thursday. Oh my gosh. Thursday. So it's just so cool to see that you can come into this industry and just like head down focus, but you should be proud of yourself. So I just had to wanted to brag about you. And congratulate you on your first closing today. That's really cool. Thanks so much. So round of applause. And then if you haven't met Michelle in the back, wave to everyone. Michelle, she joined us last week. Yes. So say hi to her. And if there's anyone else that you recognize in the room that you haven't met before, or that you don't recognize, meet them. Lisa joined last month, right? What month is it? It's the last day of the month. I don't know. Right? So yeah. So if you haven't met Myra.
I'm just curious how she got her first buyer and first people that I think.
So cool, you guys. Okay, well, have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you this week at the CE class or Peter's class.